here, I'm still here, breathing. Let me be the dove fly. So why not I in the storm, in the sky?
So, there are lots of places we can go from here, but I mean, just to recap a little bit, for caregivers, they definitely got to get their doctor on side. They definitely need to get on getting a diagnosis. And that's where the doctor comes in, because he's supposed to be the one that's sending it forward. And then it's like, it needs to be an early diagnosis, and they got to loosen up that whole field out there, because I know they're down 30% in that whole healthcare, but they need to get on the train and acknowledge the fact that this needs to be identified early, because there's caregivers out there that are basically failing. And I see them all the time in my support group and otherwise. And they're failing big time. I mean, there's more tears shed in there than you would think, because they are just at wit's end. They don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. And if you have a job, like I was in control of my time. I mean, I still had work to do and everything else, but I mean, I could dance around that. But a lot of these people have jobs. And how do you care for somebody who's in denial? You need help. And the only way you can get help is if you get a diagnosis, because you can't get into any programs without a diagnosis. And it's like that certification that we talked about. Mm-hmm. This says that you are ill. Well, there's nothing to say that you're ill. And so why would we,
Mm-hmm.
And why I couldn't get respite and why that became so important to me is that for 13 months, she threw everybody out the door. She would basically, after about half an hour, just walk them to the door and either, fairly well, escort them out and tell them goodbye and some other things at times. Mm-hmm. I mean, with the caregiver, I couldn't get any respite. And it would take me hours and hours to bring these people up to speed with what they were dealing with, what they had to do. And then those hours and hours would come to 30 to 40 minutes visit. And that's 3-hour minimums. And they're $35 an hour or $40 an hour sometimes. And it's like, now you're into $100 and you only showed up for 20 to 40 minutes. It's like, this is bizarre.
Well, when you were telling me about you going on this trip to see your son, you were starting to talk about that earlier, and you go and you make plans again for self-care to reach, it was a newborn.
Well, I couldn't get a break. My grandchild had been born and I had only seen her once for a couple of days, and when they came to visit and that kind of thing. So it's like, my mother was, 90s. And, I was about to have her put into long-term care as well, that kind of stuff going on. And I couldn't take care of it. I couldn't get to her. My sister had to handle that. So I had stuff that I had to deal with as well that I could not get to. And when I went to visit my son, I hired somebody who was highly recommended to me. She was a nurse for 25 years in healthcare and in mental health. And quite a bit of it in dementia. Mm-hmm. We talked a lot. I brought her up to speed over, it must have been about 6 hours of conversation. Mm-hmm. Promised her $4,000 if she could do 4 days for me, and I could get on a plane, go see my son and family, and have a Father's Day and a breath, and just try to breathe and, be in a nice environment, get a head break. And so she agreed and she did it. She came in to stay. We have a house with lots of rooms and stuff. So there was adequate accommodation for her, and we had a plan. And so it took me a while to talk Anita into it. And so finally she came in and they were going to have a night. And off I went. So Father's Day comes. We're just about to get going. Phone rings. And here's the police. The police had come to my door. My wife had started the first day to get violent with the caregiver. So the caregiver across the street, accessed some friends that I'd given her, and they came over. And then the police basically called me the next day because she had got up in the morning, gone into the caregiver's room. She was in the middle of being dressed and hauled her out, down the stairs, out into the driveway, put her in a car. Caregiver didn't know what to do. Anita realized that her bags and all her clothes and everything and belongings were still upstairs. Went out to the car, pulled her out of the car, drug her back up the stairs, packed her bags for her, and sent her packing. So at that point in time, she knew that she had to call the police. I mean, because adult protection is no good to you. She called them. They couldn't do anything. Plus, they were like 8 to 4 or something. So you're thinking that adult protection will come anytime. Nope. They'll probably have someone on a hotline once in a while, but basically they're not like, your emergency response team. And one of the things that came out of that event was that the police said, I said, well, can you not take her to a hospital bed? Well, they said, if we take her to emergency, she's just going to be in a hallway or whatever until you get back. And I said, well, why would that be? Well, he said, is she on a wait list? I said, what wait list? Is she on the wait list for a long-term care center? I said, no. Then she'll be in the hallway until you come back. And I knew damn well she wouldn't be in the hallway. She was going to walk out right behind them out the door because that's what she would do. And the other thing was adult protection, because the nurse, I said, call adult protection. She said, I did. And they can't come or take her anywhere unless she's on a wait list. Again, what wait list? So the wait list is what occurs through the diagnosis with continuing care. And certain events have to happen in order for them to consider the candidate bad enough to be admitted to a long-term care center. And that is what caregivers have to know. Okay. You can't just drop them off at emergency and walk away. And then I called these guys up. I called up adult protection and I talked to their representative, whom I know the name of, but I won't say. And we had a good conversation. And she said, I understand what's going on. She said, but we can't do anything here because she's not on the wait list, number one. And number two, there are two things that you can do. And so I'm telling you these, that if you're at the end of the rope and you can't do anymore, this is what you will have to do. And the first thing is that you can walk out the door, abandon her in your home, and call us and say you're not coming back. And that she is under duress, she needs help, can't handle herself, take care of herself. And I said, I'm not going to do that, And so the other thing you can do is you can drop her off at emergency and say, walk away and never be found again. And then they'll have to deal with it. And then they'll call us and we'll come and get her. That's pretty much what she said then, in recollection. And so I'm not going to do that.
So you knew those two options.
The third side of that last one is that, one is adult and one is emergency, is that she's going to walk right behind me, right back out that door. I mean, she's physically very capable. She could walk behind me for 6 miles and not take a breath. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that wasn't going to happen. And she is and always was a very willful person. And so I knew her well enough to know that I'm not dropping her anywhere. I can't get her anywhere. Like she is in strong, fierce denial and great honor. But I mean, the problem with being in great denial is that you just can't get the person any help. And it's just really, really difficult. I mean, I've gone through years of not being able to get her the help that I could have gotten her. Like I could have gotten her good caregiving. I could have gotten her all kinds of things, but she was having nothing to do with it because she doesn't have dementia. So those are critical moments right there. So I went to private and I said, in the meantime, I did just a step back. Public, I said, I'll take the respite because they have a respite program there. And so they got me in touch with Windsor Elms and said, we can give you 2 weeks in November. This is the end of June, right? And I'm saying, it's all I got. I'll take it.
That's a long ways off. You gotta.
I'll take it.
Yeah, but
I didn't know. I have notes that to myself. I have a journal, and I have notes mentioning that I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I have to be able to make it to November. And I knew I was at the end of my rope, so I decided I would check out private, because no one was really talking about private. And so I made some phone calls and I talked to Shannix. And as I said, I pretty much talked him into like a 2-week respite. And I filled out all the application forms. I had the doctor do what he had to do. I had a very concise package put together that they asked me to do, and $1,000. And I paid them the money. They took it gratefully, and they accepted the fact that we had dates in August, and they would take her for 2 weeks. And I would have a respite for 2 weeks. And I said, finally, 2 weeks, even if I did nothing,
yes,
it would be great.
Yeah.
Just like flat on my back on my deck.
It
would have been just perfect, right?
Taking that 1 hour of peace in the morning.
Anything. I was always open to taking anything, right? And anyway, so the time goes by and I'm making plans and, everything is moving along and not hearing anything. And so week left, still not hearing anything. I said, this is unusual. I've been in business. So I phoned up, left a few messages, nothing. And then a few days later, phone rang. And the nurse in charge got back to me and said, we have bad news for you. I said, not surprising. I haven't heard from anybody, so what's up? And said, we had a long management meeting about Anita, and we just can't handle it. And why was it? Because, she can be violent from time to time. And with the police report, now she actually had a police report,
okay,
that they were not willing to accept her. And I said, you don't know what I said. I can't tell you what I said because it was too verbal. I didn't say it to them.
Too honest.
But I did have a conversation with myself very loudly in my home.
Yeah. Doors locked,
yeah.
Windows closed. Yeah.
I have my own screaming moments.
Yes.
And anyway, so I said, I'd like to have my money back. And eventually I did get that back. But so then I talked to Outreach again, and they were just, they were at this point in time, I came to understand that nobody knows enough about FTD, not even the neurologists. It's just so new and so unique that not everybody gets it, and nobody knows why. You get at such a young age. Anita is only 72 now. So at that moment in time, actually that was only a year ago now. But at the onset, she was obviously in her late 60s. But earlier on, she was in her early 60s when the humming started and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was a big deal. And so they were just appalled. They couldn't believe it. So they had just hired somebody new in the social work area. And so she went to work with me, and I had to re-educate her, which was another thing. You re-educate people over and over and over.
And that's, again, back to the caregiver, that understanding that you were going to have to repeat the story again and again and again.
You just wouldn't believe them.
Yeah.
I swear to God, it feels like a million times.
Yeah.
Like the worst question anybody could ever ask me after a while was, how is Anita? How are you? And you just don't have room for it anymore, because they'd walk away wishing they had never asked the question. And you walk away being fully and totally depressed, right? Because now you've gone through that whole thing again. Mm-hmm. Because one leads to another, you know what I mean? So, and God bless her. She's a wonderful woman and a wonderful person, and has so much talent. So there I was. So ended up that she found within the organization of Shanix, again, privately, a thing called Elite Beds. Now, this respite was going to cost me for 2 weeks $8,000. Worth every penny to me at the time. This was going to cost $13,500 a month. And there's no subsidization to it. This is just right out of the pocket. And so I said, okay, let's find out what are we doing? And so she talked to them further and said, okay, he's going to do it. And I'm not even knowing how I'm going to get her there, as usual. Mm-hmm. So she comes back and she says, there's only one caveat. There's only one deal breaker there. And that is that if there's any violence. And I said, don't even get them to send me the paperwork. Don't even waste my time any further. I'm done. And now I'm thinking, what am I going to do? Now it's like November. And why I was taking her on these trips, I took her on several vacations, because I couldn't get anybody to look after her. I couldn't get anybody to stay with her, mm-hmm. Not so much to look after, even just to be in a supervisory capacity, to just keep an eye on things, make sure she was safe, and everything else. I had I had gotten ear tags and bought an iPhone because I'm Android, just so I would know where she was, right? And I put them in the little things under the laces of your shoes, and I contained her to 4 pairs of shoes, and I put 4 ear tags, and I had them in each shoe, and I knew where she was going most of the time anyway. A few times she changed direction on me. She went to the Sobeys on the uphill as opposed to the downhill, which was unique. So I mean, I was doing everything I needed to do, but the violence thing was it. So I just didn't know what was going on, and then boom, out of the middle of nowhere, phone rang. I'm driving in my car, and this woman's voice, and she said, "We have a room for you." I said, "What?" "We have a room for you, Mr. Sulley." And I said, "Yeah, we have a room. You are calling about a room for my wife. Are you with Nova Scotia Health?" "Yes." "So well, why didn't you say that?"
Yeah, maybe they did.
Yeah. And so anyway, so you have a room? "Yes." I said, "Where?" "Windsor Elms." I said, "Yeah, that's a respite. It's in November. It's 2 weeks." No. I said, "I don't have that." So it was like, who's on first?
Yes.
Yeah. And so I'm now pulled over and I'm trying to figure out, what are we doing here? So I do get to the end of it, and finally I discover that they have a placement for Anita at Windsor Elms, and a placement came free. And so I said, I was shocked. I mean, I was in total shock.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, here I'm thinking by now I do have her on the wait list, and they get back to me and they're telling me that it's like I think it was like 12 to 18 months for a placement. So I'm thinking next year minimum, right? And now it's like it's there, and now it's like how do I do this? Like, wow, I'm just totally flabbergasted. So I got off the phone and said, "How long do I have to do this?" And it's 6 days. But 6 days to make up my mind, or they would have to give the room away. And so I called outreach. I said, "I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know. Really, I'm in shock. I don't know how I'm going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I'm going to get her there." So we came up with certain solutions to do that. And I mean, when the day came, I was just like, it was just like a blur to me because I wasn't ready for it. I don't know if you ever are, but I definitely was not ready for it.
I think that's a really important point. The fact that you've been looking for this help in that way for so long.
Yeah.
And then when it comes, you're not ready for it. Because
I was ready for it 12 months away.
Well, you're right. Yeah.
But I wasn't ready for it. Like today, out of the blue, you call me, and it's kind of like good news, bad news. It's like the good news is that you have 48 hours to live. The bad news, we found out yesterday.
Right.
I mean, it's like, it's a shock. It's a total shock.
It's shock, yes.
And I never felt that before. I mean, I could handle it mentally, but it was just like, boom. Like, now my life is, I could feel it change, like right in front of me, right then and there. I mean, I had to actually, basically, without verbalizing it at that time, say goodbye to my wife. I mean, how easy is that? I mean, if you want a divorce, that's easy, right? But how easy is it in this situation? And so, I mean, just to gather my thoughts here for a second, I mean, really it was like I had to call outreach, who is just the best contact I ever had, because she helped me so much over the course of this thing. And we talked it through, and, she helped quite a bit and tried to formulate it. She knew exactly what I was doing because she'd known all along. She was in the game. So we came up with a plan. So finally what I did, I came up with a story that, the doctor, there's a 2-week memory clinic, and he thinks it would be just really helpful for you. And you would be able to, like speak to people easier and that kind of stuff, and of course that was not I didn't say it exactly that way, but in a way that would be helpful, And so she kind of bought into it. And then that morning came, and I was kind of vague about the when and where. And so I said, let's take the dog for a walk. And I got this special trail that we're going to go to. And it's down in the valley. So let's go down in the valley. And all good to go. So, everything was there, ready to go. So we got in the car and went. And of course, the 40-minute trip became longer and longer and longer and longer. Because all of a sudden, like, we can stop here. Here's the trail. Well, what about there? Why are we going like all the way down there? And blah, 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 blah. So anyway, like 40 minutes became really about 2 hours, and all the while I'm thinking, how's this going to go? I had already been in touch with Windsor Elms, and I had in touch with the nursing staff saying, you're going to need some people on hand. Mm. Like, I need a lot of people there to make sure that, she gets a lot of support, comfort, that kind of stuff, because I don't know if I'm going to be able to get her in the door. So finally, we get there, we pull up, and she said, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Where is this? We can walk over there because, it's a trail and grass and all that kind of stuff. And let's go there. I said, no. I said, you remember the memory clinic I was telling you about that the doctor wanted you to go to? Well, the doctor's in there and he wants to meet you for about a couple of minutes just to say hi and then make sure that you want. I'm not going in there. So anyway, end of the story. We had a big hullabaloo about it. And then I finally had to say, you know what? I can't physically drag you in there. I'm not going to do it because I just never did anything like that. So I said, I have to go in because the doctor is waiting. It is an appointment. And I have to tell him that you're not coming in. Mm-hmm. So I will be back. Right? Mm-hmm. So I went in the door and I got the nurse at the time. She ran around and gathered up as many people as she could, and it took a while. So I'm going to say we were doing this, and I was trying to get them. I said, you got to hurry because I don't know how long she can contain herself out there, because she's wanting to get going. And with that, bouncing through the door, where are you? And I look at her and I say, you're in. And that was it. Mm-hmm. And they made a big fuss over her, and she was all taken with it, and they knew her name and everything, and just made her feel great. Walked her up to her room door and said, welcome, Anita, and everything else. And I said, I have to go back and I have to get her things. Please take care of her, do the best you can. And I remember walking out the door, and I went into total shock. I didn't realize my whole life had changed. And it did. And at that one moment, I went from, I had always thought, and so did everybody else, and so does everybody else, that once you have that event occur, like your person goes in long-term care like they should, that you're free and everything is going to be back to normal and you're going to go on and have your life normal again. And that doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. It doesn't happen. And so I had never felt it before, and I hope I never feel it again, but my whole body changed chemistry. I don't know. It was shock. It's the only way I can describe it. I had loss. I knew my life was changed. She was there, and I was going home to nothing. And everything about my home is her. Everything, from the leaves on the trees that she planted, to all our knickknacks from all our travels in the house, to all the food that she had bought for the week with me. Everything was us, and there was no us anymore. There absolutely was no us. And complete aloneness fell over me. And it's really quite different than loneliness, is you realize that it's just you and nothing else is there. There's nothing else. It's not about being with people. It's just that you have nothing left. And I already had nothing left. But this was a whole other sense of nothing. So I went from extreme right to extreme left. And I'm on my way back to center now, but I was definitely at the extreme. And the only people that really understand that are the people in my support group. Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm in AA. Like, hi, my name is Patrick, and I'm a caregiver.
Well, you use
but, it's like I had never intended to be that. And all of this is a complete surprise. I was unprepared for it.
Mm-hmm.
I was certainly untrained for it. And all the people that I associate with are in the same boat. And that's why I think your sequence here is such a good series that it's going to be helpful for caregivers. Because I'm sure there's a lot of other people out there like me, not maybe with FTD, but, you know, and you work at Windsor Elms. So,
well,
you know,
and it's a real,
it's an excellent place. I can't say enough about it. The staff there is just magic. They're absolutely magic. They just buy into the resident.
There's a privilege that I have in getting to know Anita through this story.
Mm-hmm.
And for me to do my work, so I'm a part-time chaplain there, to do my work there is just shows me that the better that you know who that person is, the more you can meet them in the care that they need.
Yeah.
And so this has been a real privilege and education for me in a professional way, but also in a very personal way.
Yeah.
And
I can see that.
Yeah, and I feel very privileged to work at Windsor Elms for all the reasons that you're saying there, because there is a connectiveness with the residents. There is an approach there that is very unique, that is built in compassion, but professional compassion. It's that next level, which I really appreciate, and I've been there for about 4 months, but. When this came in, and of course I'm the chaplain, so I read into the.
I don't know why I have never met you before, because I'm there all the time. I mean, they actually told me I should move a bed in there.
Yeah,
you know. So yeah, but I did see you once.
There you go. I think you said I was dancing.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, Anita was dancing.
Oh, Anita was dancing. Okay,
yeah.
good. I'm glad I wasn't dancing. It wouldn't leave that impression in your mind.
Yeah.
As we,
that would be painful, probably.
as we, and I just want to say thank you so much for also the honesty, because I think that the honesty and authenticity will go a long way to bring the listener in to this story, and so they can also, as you're getting from your support groups, that next level of understanding through living with it. And this is where the education of just knowledge-based education isn't enough. You need experiential education. But you can also share that and make someone feel that they're not alone in this struggle.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, because one of the big motivators for me to come in here and speak to you about this is the fact that I do understand that caregivers they're all like me. They didn't intend, it's an unintended consequence, so to speak. And you know, this is a tough job, but someone's got to do it, because where would your loved one be, or your patient, or whatever? But where would my wife be if I wasn't there? I mean, I have been there every minute, and I don't regret 1 minute, not one. I mean, there were very, very tough moments, but it wasn't her fault. I mean, she didn't do it, you know. And, I mean, she's lovely. She's beautiful. You know, she's
powerful, beautiful smile.
She's a handful.
Yeah.
Even there. I mean, at least there they have professional staff, and they change shifts, and they can go home and come refreshed the next day. When you're a caregiver, you don't get that opportunity. And it's like, you know, you're in it. You're in it to win it.
That's a really good point. That again, that resting, to do that work well.
Yeah.
That who takes care of the caregivers, right? So, but even those caregivers that are professional caregivers have to go home. They have to rest. They have to be able to, so that they can come back the way that they're needed to come back.
Yeah. And like the common Joe on the street can often look at that in a crossway and say that, well, yeah, but they're being paid. Well, you know what? That really doesn't even come into the picture. The money is not what it's about. These people are, I mean, I know a lot of them now. I know them really well, and they are dedicated. Like, they are personally invested in the care that they're giving. I mean, I have nothing but the best to say about them. I mean, I truly do. I mean, I don't, like, I just tell them what they're doing a good job, and I joke around with them and everything else. and most of them know me. They see me haunting the hallways. But, I really mean that. I mean, I see how dedicated they are, and I feel it, you know. So I just like hats off to them. They're down 30%. And some of them are working double shifts and they're 12-hour shifts and they're this and that. But I mean, God bless them. And they got a good system down there. And I know that she's well taken care of. And I'm there most of the time anyway. I often wonder why I can't take her home, and then I realize why, because I do remember. And like simple things like medication. I mean, I used to have to trick her into taking that when she wasn't looking. I'd crush it up and say there were vitamin. If she saw them, and I gave them to her, it would be like vitamin B12, anything, and she bought into it after a while. But they've got her into the structure and they call it vitamins, and she takes it wholeheartedly all the time. And it's just like fantastic. Yeah. But things that I don't have are like, certain medications are really good for her. And I didn't have that. I didn't have the availability.
Well, that whole care. I mean, they
have the doctor. He's the medical
nutritionist
administrator, and he sees her every week. I mean, we didn't have that. We didn't have that, So, I mean, it's great. And they have the same philosophy, really. There they have what they call an Eden philosophy that I really didn't look into wholeheartedly, but I know enough to know that it's all about letting the person be who they are and keep them safe.
Well, and isn't that amazing how you were, that philosophy you were adopting?
I didn't know.
Right? No, but you didn't know. But again, I'm back to that divine, interconnectedness of that philosophy is where she ended up. And that instinct to do that.
It was like, when I got the call and I called the lady who's responsible for the placement in Nova Scotia Health, and I forget her name. I mean, she was almost in tears when I was telling her the bit of the story. And she said, she said, it doesn't happen very often. She said, but somewhere up there, your stars got crossed today. I thought that was so apt, because it was true. I mean, I was in despair. I was in hopelessness. I mean, all kinds of things that I would never really want to admit to anybody that I was, because I really didn't think it was capable of happening to me. I mean, but I did. I mean, I found that there was times when I had to dial out. No time for the small talk. I mean, I'd be with friends and I'd skip board. I just want to leave because the small talk has no relativity to me anymore, because I had such a big talk going on for such a long time that small talk is like, I'm out of here. Let me go sit on a rock and watch the waves roll in, anything. I mean, I think when we first met, and I know I've said this to several people in talking with them, but I can talk for 3 weeks on this without stopping. I definitely can. We've only scratched the surface. I've tried to be brief. It's impossible for me to be brief because the experience has been so deep. But again, I will definitely say that I don't regret 1 minute. It's a hard thing to watch. Someone you love disappear millimeter by millimeter, day by day, week by week, year by year, in front of your eyes. And but you know what? You get close and closer all the time by what is left. And I think at the end of the day, I'll definitely be able to look in the mirror.
And if we can say that to caregivers, that you can do it, like even that it's hard, you need others, you need to find what those resources are. You need to follow a lot of the things that you were saying, those bits of advice and guidance.
Yeah, I mean, they're really important.
If you could summarize those main points, what would they be? What would they be for you?
Well, I really think regarding caregivers, I mean, you really need to pay attention to the fact, number one, early on, they call it early onset. Well, it's early onset for you as a caregiver too. And you need to definitely get your doctor on side because there's no quarterback in the system. You have to tell the same story to everybody all the time, and the doctor should be the original quarterback because he coordinates everything. But there is, even with that, no quarterback in the system. And that's something that really needs to happen. And I've said that to neurology and a few others because, as you suggested earlier on, the amount of time that you spend re-educating people that are new to the page, I mean, you need someone who can hand out that characterization or whatever it is that tells people this is the song we're singing and this is how it goes. This is the key it's in, and this is the part that you take. I mean, it's simple. I mean, how for hundreds and thousands of years, I mean, orchestras have done that. I mean, there are quarterbacks in football because someone has to know what the game is and where we're going with it. And they don't. They have a lot of people, it's like a stampede of horses. They're all going the same direction, but all taking different paths. And, the poor old cowboy is up there trying to lasso a few of them. And, it just doesn't work. They need a quarterback. And they need to get their system in place so they can get some better testing earlier. And so that caregivers like me can get help to get help for the people they're caring for. And until that happens, it's a nightmare out there because right now there's probably a pandemic of caregivers that are requiring mental health attendance. And because they're falling through the cracks, because they're not prepared, they don't know they're going to be a caregiver until they're 2 or 3 years in. All of a sudden it's like, you're caught in a trap and there's no way out. And there's no support. And you do lose family. You do lose friends. That's not particular to me. It's all the people have had trouble with some kind of relation sooner or later. Often it's not the person's fault. It's just that they don't get it. They just don't get it. And why would they? They're not in it. They're not in the game. But so that's pretty much all I got to say. Well, no, I mean, I can basically say that that's important. The early diagnosis is critical. Signing up for the Alzheimer's Society, that's critical. And getting into continuing care to access the programs that they have, that's critical. But nothing happens without a diagnosis. Until you can get a diagnosis, you can't get help in any way.
Well,
so that's it for me. What about you?
Well, I can honestly say I don't think "Thank You, Patrick" actually cuts it. I think for me personally, the learning that I've done in this interaction with you, to listen, to engage with you, to know Anita in a new way, with a new lens, powerful. And I just want to thank you from honestly the bottom of my heart. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in to the Still Here podcast. You can find us on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.